A very good morning to one and all. Today we are discussing another upper respiratory infection, that is tonsillitis. Maybe you heard you heard about tonsillitis. Otherwise, we can call it as sore throat. Let me introduce the topic. Tonsillitis is the term commonly used to describe the inflammation and infection of two palatine tonsils. So, in our upper respiratory tract or in the inside the mouth, you can see that two palatine tonsils are present just behind the palate, soft palate. Okay, so just go to anatomy and review anatomy and physiology. You can understand the exact location of the tonsils. So there are two tonsils are present on both side, each side, and the main function is they are acting as a immune defense mechanism. So there, if there is any inflammation or infection occurring on the tonsil, which we can call it as tonsillitis. The purpose of this lymphoid tissue is to filter and protect the respiratory and digestive tracts from invasion by pathogens, but often the tonsils become site for infection. So the main function and the purpose of the lymphoid tissue, tonsils are lymphoid tissue, that main purpose is to filter and protect the respiratory and digestive tracts. So in order to filter and protect the digestive and respiratory tract, the tonsils are present inside the mouth, and it will helps to prevent the invasion of foreign bodies or pathogens, and that's why this tonsils is always getting infected or inflamed. Let us see the definition. Tonsillitis is defined as an inflammation of the tonsil and characterized by sore throat and fever. So, main symptom of tonsillitis is sore throat and fever. You can see in throat pain. Okay, and along with the throat pain, if you are observing the mouth, you can see a red color, redness over the mouth, and also fever will be there. So that is called tonsillitis, the inflammation of the tonsils. Let us see the incidence. The incidence of tonsillitis peak between age 4 and 7. Mainly you can see in the age group 4 to 7 years or in the children. Group A, beta hemolytic streptococcus infection occurs most frequently in the winter and is spread more readily in crowded living situation. So, one of the main cause for tonsillitis is Group A, beta hemolytic streptococcus infection. So, because of this infection, tonsillitis can occur, and it is most commonly occurring during the winter time. Okay, or if you are in a crowded place, that time this particular infection can occur. Let us see the causes. Inflammation of the tonsils may result from bacterial or viral infection. The main cause for tonsillitis is either bacteria or viral infection. Bacteria, including tonsillitis, is often grouped by group A Streptococcus bacteria, resulting in strep throat. Okay, main bacteria is Streptococcus bacteria, group A Streptococcus bacteria, and in virus, mainly it is due to Epstein-Barr virus or Coxsackie virus. So one of the cause for viral cause for tonsillitis is Epstein-Barr virus and Coxsackie virus. Let us see the pathophysiology. Due to the bacterial infection or due to the etiological factors, protective immunity not developed yet, prone to infection. If the immunity is not developed in children and all, it is main risk for infection. Stimulate the inflammatory response. Okay, so the immune system will stimulate the inflammatory response once the bacteria is coming in contact with tonsils, that can lead to tonsillitis and fever. And the other side, inflammation of tonsils can lead to sore throat. Here the tonsil size is increasing, and sometimes it may obstruct the airway. So that's why when you are suffering from tonsillitis, you may feel a blockage or difficulty in swallowing and difficulty in respiration. So because the airway is getting obstructed by inflamed tonsils. So due to the etiological factors, multiplication of bacteria is occurring on the tonsils, that can lead to inflammatory reaction in the tonsils. Due to this inflammatory reaction, swelling of the tonsils will occur, pain will be there, and fever. So this is the pathophysiology. Let us see the signs and symptoms. One of the main sign is sore throat, which may persistent and recurrent. So recurrent or persistent, okay, always it is coming, or one after another attack is there. So like that, sore throat is occurring. Then tonsils enlarge and bright and may be covered with white exudate. So while doing oral examination, you can see in that the tonsil is enlarged. So normally it is not possible to visualize the tonsils even if it is not inflamed. If it is inflamed, then you can easily identify while you observe them, or while you are doing the oral examination, behind the soft palate, both side of the soft palate, or you can see a hanging structure in the middle. So both side of the hanging structure, you can see the enlarged or swelled increased size of tonsils. So that is the inflammation. Then next one is dysphagia, difficulty in swallowing. As I told you before, due to the increased size of the tonsil, it will may obstruct the respiratory and digestive tract. So difficulty in swallowing will be there. Mouth breathing and unpleasant mouth odor. So because of the obstruction, they can't able to take the nasal respiration. So they are always doing mouth breathing, and there is some unpleasant smell from the mouth due to the bacterial multiplication. Then enlarged adenoids also will get enlarged, you can see in the picture. So this is the inflammation. Then hearing difficulty, because of the enlargement of the tonsils, it may affect the ear. Okay, then otitis media, the inflammation can, or the infection can spread to the ear with through the tympanic eustachian tube. So eustachian tube is opening into the nasopharynx. So the infection of the tonsils can spread to the inner middle ear through eustachian tube. Then snoring will be there because of obstructed respiratory tract. And nasal quality of speech. So when they are speaking that time, instead of oral quality, nasal quality will be there. Then let us see the what are the diagnostic evaluation. That detailed history collection should be done, whether they are having any bacterial or viral infection recently, whether they are having any infection, oral infection, or any upper respiratory infections, whether they are exposed to any allergens or any foreign bodies. So like that, we have to take a proper history. Then physical examination, mainly oral examination, should be done. And in the physical exam, you have to assess whether the child voice are muffled or hoarse, whether the voice is changed, whether it is muffled or it is hoarse, loud sound is there, and inspect the enlargement of tonsil. Tonsil enlargement also inspect. Then, more than this, throat swab culture should be taking with the help of a cotton swab. You have to cotton swab, which is it's a cotton bud. Okay, with that cotton bud, you have to take. You can take a swab culture from the tonsil. It will helps to identify the underlying microorganism and also helps for treatment. Then blood test should be done. So there you can identify the increased number of blood cells because of the infection. Then rapid streptococcal antigen test should be done. It will helps to identify group A group A beta hemolytic streptococcal infection. For that one, there is a rapid strep test is there. It's a card test. So after taking the swab, you can put the swab in the card test, and we can identify whether it is the underlying infection is streptococcal infection or not. So these are the diagnostic evaluation. Next, we will see the management. In that, first we will discuss about the medical management. During the acute phase of tonsillitis, treatment is symptomatic. So, if it is acute tonsillitis, when we are doing a symptomatic treatment including we are treating for the fever. Then, if there is some congestion is there, means we are giving or some decongestants. When we are providing some strepsils or some lozenges, then acetaminophen or ibuprofen is used for pain. So if the patient is suffering from pain, we can provide acetaminophen or ibuprofen. Then gargling with warm saline solution for comforting of children. So it is a non-pharmacological management. Gargling with warm saline solution, it will helps to comfort the patient, and especially in children's. So after gargling, the swelling can reduce, and it will help them for easily swallowing and respiration. So that is very important. And other than this one, oral hygiene should be maintained. A proper oral hygiene will helps to prevent the tonsillitis. then avoid exposure to allergens. So these are the non-pharmacological management. Let us see another treatment that is most commonly treated with penicillin, given 2 or 3 times daily for 10 days. So, erythromycin may be used in children who are allergic to penicillin. So, either penicillin we can administer or erythromycin. So, these are the medication or drug of choice for tonsillitis. Then, other than this medical management, non-pharmacology management, we can go for surgical management. In that first one is tonsillectomy. So, in this picture, you can clearly see where the tonsils is exactly present. Okay. So, in tonsillectomy, it is surgical removal of the tonsils. It is considered in case of recurrent tonsillitis, upper airway obstruction, and peritonsillar abscess. So, in acute case, we are not going for any surgery. We are treating the person with symptomatic management. If it is chronic or if it is recurring, okay, or if it is occurring all the time, then we are going for tonsillectomy. If there is any upper airway obstruction or peritonsillar abscess is there, then we are going for tonsillectomy. Then next one is electrosurgical tonsillectomy. That is another method of tonsillectomy. It is a newer technology that uses electromagnetic radiation to generate heat within tissue for cutting and coagulation. So, in order to prevent the bleeding or complications, this is a a new technique that is called electrosurgical tonsillectomy. Here, we are using, or the surgeon is using, electromagnetic radiation. With the help of electromagnetic radiation, it will produce heat over the tonsil tissue and also help for cutting and coagulation. This technique may reduce risk for bleeding and produce less patient discomfort. It is a less patient discomfort. It will produce a less patient discomfort than in normal tonsillectomy, and also helps to reduce the risk of bleeding. Then next procedure is adenoidectomy, surgical removal of the adenoids that obstruct nasal breathing. So adenoids, that is also a gland present just above the tonsil, that is also a lymphoid tissue, and because of tonsillitis, adenoid gland also will get inflamed. So in that condition, we are going for adenoidectomy, that is surgical removal of the adenoids. It will helps to prevent the obstruction of nasal breathing. Then the nursing management, we have to promote airway clearance, provide sideline or prone position to facilitate safe drainage of secretions. Then suctioning, if necessary, should be done to avoid trauma to the surgical site. If more secretion is coming after the surgery, we have to go for suctioning. It will help to prevent the trauma to the surgical site. Then maintaining fluid volume, we have to maintain the proper fluid volume is necessary for tonsillectomy. Then inspect throat for bleeding. If there is any bleeding is there, that we have to identify. To avoid trauma to the surgical site, discourage the child from coughing, clearing the throat, blowing the nose, and using straws. So why they mention children means it is most commonly seen in children, so than in adults. But in adults also it can occur. But adult, it will subside after some symptomatic management. But in children, it is very difficult to recover. So that's why we have to take more importance for children. So after the surgery, we have to discourage the child for coughing, especially for coughing or clearing the throat, because it can lead to bleeding. Then encourage children to take more fluids. Then citrus juice and brown or red fluids should be avoided. So citrus juice, if you are taking, means there's a chance of acidity formation and it will irritate the surgical site. That's why we have to avoid the citrus juice. Then, other than this one, for relieving pain, we can use ice collar that can be prescribed. It is available in the pharmacy. So it is nothing. It's a ice pipe which we can keep on the neck region. It will helps to reduce the swelling, and also it will helps to reduce the inflammation. Then administration of analgesics helps to reduce the pain and also promote for oral fluid intake. We have to always humidify the tonsils in order to prevent the risk of infections. So this all about then the complications are including peritonsillar abscess. If the tonsils is not treated properly, it can lead to peritonsillar abscess, pharyngitis, then blocked airway from swollen tonsils. So these are the possible complication if the tonsillitis is not treated properly. Then we can see some of the preventive measures for tonsillitis. Wash his or her hands thoroughly and frequently after using the toilet and before eating. It helps to prevent the contamination of or invasion of microorganisms. Avoid sharing food, drinking glass or utensils. Teach the child to do coughing exercise. Then teaching the child to wash his or her hands after sneezing or coughing. So it is all about preventive measures. It will helps to prevent the invasion of microorganism into the mouth. So this is all about the topic. Tonsillitis is also a small topic. It comes under upper respiratory infection. So we have seen what even by tonsillitis, and we are having two palatine tonsils present in our mucus, our oral cavity, and the main function of the tonsils is to protect the respiratory and digestive tract from entry of pathogens. And due to the accumulation of this bacteria or virus, the tonsils is getting inflamed, and that condition we can call it as tonsillitis. We have seen that viral tonsillitis and bacterial tonsillitis is there, and causes also we have seen. Then pathophysiology we have seen. Then how to what are the symptoms, signs and symptoms. Main symptom is sore throat, fever, then breathing difficulty also sometimes it can occur. Then difficulty in swallowing. Then we have seen how to diagnose the condition. Then the management, including pharmacological and non-pharmacological management. Pharmacological management including medications, and non-pharmacological management including saline water, humidification, increase fluid intake, and always humidify the or moisture the oral cavity. Then prevent the exposure to microorganisms, avoid allergens or any drugs. So these are the non-pharmacological management. We have seen the surgical management, tonsillectomy. In that newer technology is there, electromagnetic tonsillectomy. Then afterwards we have seen adenoidectomy, that is also a surgery if it is affected in the nasal tract. Then we have seen what are the preventive measures for tonsillitis. Hope all of you understood about the topic. If you are having any doubt, you can ask me through my WhatsApp number. Uh, have a nice day. Thank